so lovely to be here tonight. What a beautiful life. Give yourself some round of applause. You're so lovely.
Today, I want to talk about the situation with the Big Baller brand, and I'll give a quick recap for anyone who doesn't know about the Big Baller brand, BBB. That's a family brand started by a group of three talented basketball playing brothers and their extremely outspoken father, who frankly talked their way into the national prominence or into the national spotlight over the course of a couple of years, this past 2 years. The oldest brother, Lonzo, is currently playing for the Los Angeles Lakers. The youngest brother is in high school. He's a 5-star recruit, a very good player. The middle brother is generally perceived to be the least talented of the three, but he also has ability. The Big Baller brand was a family-run business that made the bold move of avoiding the major shoe companies and starting their own shoe line. Because normally when you have a high profile athlete come out of college, they sign with Nike or Adidas or Reebok and they get their own brand, their own line, and they're paid to wear those shoes. This family, under the leadership of the father, which is LeVar Ball, decided that they wanted to own their own brand. They wanted to start their own company and then possibly in the future have co-licensing deals or something of that nature with the bigger companies. Now, me personally, as soon as I heard that idea, I loved it because I love the idea of people owning their own likeness, seizing control of their future, their brand, and having the ability to dictate for themselves how they want to present themselves and how they want to move in the market instead of just taking the first available check. And I'm not criticizing people who do decide to go with big companies, but I love the boldness of it. But even when it first came out, people immediately criticized the Ball family for taking this approach because they felt like it was too risky and they should just take the money from Nike and you can't defeat the behemoths in the shoe industry. And again, for me, I always disagree with that line of thinking. I think you have to be bold, and fortune favors the bold, as it should. But to continue my recap, for those who've been paying attention over the past year and a half or so, the oldest brother, who is a star right now, Lonzo, he's been struggling with the Lakers. He's had issues with his ankles. Some people blame that on the shoes that he's wearing, which his family owns. And there's been some curious decisions made by the father regarding the other two brothers. The youngest brother was pulled out of high school, sent overseas to play professionally, and now he's back here playing in high school, but he may or may not have ruined his eligibility to even go to college. The middle brother was playing in college, but he stole some sunglasses on a trip to China, got suspended, and the father pulled him out of college. So now he is kind of in a little bit of a limbo. So there's been a lot of decisions that I don't think necessarily were the best ones, but I don't want to spend this time now nitpicking the decisions made by LeVar Ball. If anybody's been paying attention, a few days ago, it came out that another close member of the family who was an owner of the business is alleged to have stolen $1.5 million from the company, and specifically from the oldest brother and the star Lonzo. As a result of that information, we saw videos online of Lonzo's manager taking his Big Baller brand shoes and throwing them in the trash and telling everybody to dump their merch. Lonzo put up a post saying he's his own man now, and he unfollowed his father on his social media accounts, and he erased every sign of the family business, and his two brothers did the same thing. He also covered up the tattoo on his arm of BBB and put a pair of dice. And even despite, again, the missteps along the way, I like the idea of what they were trying to do. So it really bothers me to see this, be at a place where there's a rift between the father and the son. At least it appears to be a rift with the unfollowing and the separation from the family business. I hated to see that. But I tell you what bothered me the most is the fact that people, when they saw that, a lot of them immediately went to saying that, oh, I knew this was going to happen, as if it was inevitable from the beginning that it was going to end up this way, that it was going to all burn down, that it was all going to end up in a shambles. And that part and that way of thinking is something I really resent. And I'll tell you why. If you have people that sit on the sideline when you're trying to do something bold, something that's unprecedented, something that's extremely difficult, if all they do is sit there and watch you and root against you, sure, they'll be right a lot of the times. Because guess what? You're trying to do something that hasn't been done. That's like if you watch the NCAA tournament and you look at every team and say, you know what? I don't think you're going to win this year. Well, you're going to be right about 63 teams. There's only going to be one that wins. So you don't have to be the amazing Kreskin to predict that a lot of them won't make it, because the odds are against every individual team. There can only be one. So people looking at this situation and reveling in the fact that it didn't work and saying it was inevitable that it didn't work, I resent that, because no matter what you think about this family, they attempted to do something that I think was important and special and could set a precedent that I hope is emulated, but just in a better way. And I don't want, and this is a PSA, because I don't want anybody to look at the failure of this and feel less inclined to take those kind of chances. I think you should look at this, look at the good things you can glean from it, look at some of the mistakes you think that perhaps LeVar made along the way, and improve on it. Don't be scared to take risks. Don't be scared to take chances. Don't be scared to do things that everyone else does not understand. And above all else, don't be scared to fail. Now, does it seem like some part of this failure may have been preventable because the father hired a person who has a criminal past for laundering money, then he put him in charge of the money for this company? Yes. But again, that's why you pay attention and hopefully avoid the pitfalls of LeVar in this situation. But I just really want people to not be discouraged, because there were a lot of us, myself included, who were really rooting for this family, because that notion of ownership, when you look at all the blood, sweat, and tears that majority black athletes are put into the NCAA, into the major professional organizations, specifically the NBA and the NFL, but the lack of ownership they have over industries that they pour so much into. We generate so many millions and billions of dollars for so many people, but we have so little ownership. So I don't want people to be scared away by the flawed execution of this one family who was attempting to have ownership, because I think what they were trying to do and what they were trying to establish is important. I think it's something that we should all trend towards and aspire to have ownership, to have our fair share, and not just to accept what's given to us, but to have our own and demand the terms. So again, it didn't work this time, but maybe it'll work for the next time, the next person with better execution. It was always going to be difficult. I mean, they were trying to do something that had never been done. It was never going to be easy. It always had a high possibility of not working. But don't let that discourage you from knowing the value of ownership, from knowing your value as an asset, from refusing to be exploited. And again, pay attention to this story, which is still unfolding. So I don't know how it's going to end up, but maybe it does end in a bad condition for this family. But I hope that they've shown a way that someone else can come behind and possibly turn into the success that some of us wish this could have been. Because ownership is key and knowing your value is essential. Maybe next time somebody can get it right. That's just a word.